We usually kick this show off with a subpar poem about the highlights of the previous round, but this week we can just sum it up in 2 words. Harley Reid. To dissect the form of the Tongala torpedo and cast our eyes towards round 11, this is Triple M Footy's midweek rub with pick 37 from the 2001 draft, Lee Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy. A bit busy this week, were you?
No, honestly.
What a steal. Pick 37.
That was the super draft. I was in the super draft, so I'm proud that I'm part of that draft. Ablett, Swan, Mitchell, Hodge, Judd, Ball, Dalsano, Steve Johnson goes on. So 37 is probably unders.
Yeah. Upon reflection, I retract my statement.
Pick 2 from the 2005
like
draft,
it.
Daisy
Yeah,
Thomas.
pick 2. That's sort of more what we're after.
It was your super draft. It was in your draft.
Mark Murphy went ahead of me, but that was father-son, so he cost me the number 1 pick. We had Pendles. He went at 5. Talk about draft steals. Yeah.
Made it look good, that draft.
Absolutely, yeah. He's helped out. Bo Dowler. What?
And pick 1 from the 1990 media draft at Stanley
1990,
Barrett.
yeah. That draft you talk about there, Days, that was one where Collingwood may have just fallen off a cliff in the previous season to get the extra priority pick.
And it worked out well. Obviously, they got the marketing value out of me, a premiership, but also a bloke who's going to break the game's record.
And still playing.
And still playing and going to be one of the all-time greats of the league.
Most of those teams that won premierships had the priority picks, Damo.
They
Back in
seem
those,
to
the
for a while.
Hawks. The
Yeah.
Hawks got some priority picks. And
Collingwood had come off a grand final in 02 and 3 and then just fell off a cliff miraculously and then just surged again after they got the priority picks in. So, yeah.
I hadn't missed a final. Yeah, so when I started, this is how lucky I was. From the time I played and started to the time I went to the Blues, hadn't missed playing in finals. It's a nice little from a pick 2, which
And
is
then
meant to
didn't
be
get
a
near
side
it to Blues.
and didn't get near it. Yeah. Won a couple of wooden spoons, but that's about it.
There you go.
Fun fact.
It wasn't a busy week. I just thought Harley Reid was the
No,
story.
It was the story. No,
he's
you're right.
defensive.
Tell me what else happened, Joey.
Well, there were lots of teams that lost that we think are meant to be contenders that we're not sure where they're at, but there's still plenty of the season to go. Some big winners. But again, how much are you going to jump on the teams like Western Bulldogs and all them? Because we know that every time they win, they drop one. So there's been plenty of mixed results. But you're right, Harley Reid has been the talk of the town. It is just phenomenal what that kid's doing. Is it the best? I mean, you've seen a lot more footy than us, Damo. Can you remember
I can't.
anyone having the same impact?
No, I can't because everyone refers to the Judd experience and memories, but that was it was a slower burn than Harley Reid.
It was his second year. When
it was his
Judd-
second year.
People
correct.
forget that when he
Yeah.
really kicked the 5 against Brisbane and did all that sort of stuff.
That was his second season. People forget that. I know he had a good debut. I mean, it was around 2 in 2002, and there's a game where Brody Holland kicked 8 goals of all people, but it wasn't a breakout game in the same vein. And this guy has now had 9 of the 10 matches that have been available. He was rested for one of them. He may have Brownlow votes in 3 of them.
Well, I just had a look. Nick Dacos and Chris Judd polled about 10 or 11 votes in their first year, Brownlow-wise. You could argue Harley Reid's probably got 8 to 9 already because he's had 2 best on grounds. He might have polled in that Sydney game in the gather round, which was his breakout despite
Yes,
the
it
loss.
was too, yeah.
So there's a chance that he could be around that mark already.
Was he out selling jumpers in the first week of a club great? Or did he have the junior membership already named after him?
Is that what you got straight
or
up?
Mark of the year or goal of the
So
year?
you're arguing your first year was better than Harley
Yeah,
Reid's?
comfortably. 4 bouncing and kicking goals. Please did it twice a month. My
When did
goodness.
you take the hanger at the MCG? Was that
I took
second
one.
year?
I took one against Adelaide in my first game, which was mark of the round. At round 4, I took the hanger on Anzac Day and kicked the sealer.
in your first year?
I outsold Bucks by the second week. That's why he doesn't like me. I'm telling you, he holds a grudge.
So Daisy's had the same impact as Harley Reid.
Probably bigger.
Yeah, 'cause bigger club.
Yeah, bigger club.
Yeah.
Same hair. He's copied my
Yeah.
hairstyle. Like the model that he's gone down, and the strength and power that he played with is comparable to
Yes,
me.
that's right.
I was 68 kilos, and the fend-offs that I was giving were powerful.
I like it.
Yeah, is that a good angle?
I like it.
Because that is absolute
You know,
bullshit.
Jackie Epstein reports everything word for word without the
Oh, no.
context around it. You're in
Yes.
trouble now.
Well, that's okay.
And when it comes in print, it comes
Yeah.
as like it was
Comes in
serious.
harder.
We'll stick with you, Days, because as we found out, Jake Lever's gone in for secret surgery on a knee. Did you have any secret injuries throughout your career?
Secret surgery. Not so much a secret when we're talking about it, is it?
No.
What, on a knee?
Mm.
For
Just a little clean out. Well, he's got concussion. I thought it made sense because he's going to miss the game anyway. They've got the bye, I think, in another 2
that's
weeks
smart.
anyway.
Good
So maybe
management.
get your little clean out done now and he can be right for the second half of the season.
I snuck off to Fiji. I think I've told this story once, and they sent Mitch Cleary I still don't know how this happened. I didn't tell a soul.
Were you injuring him? Why'd you sneak off to Fiji?
I was going to Sydney to see a specialist about my ankle, and I asked the club if I could have till Monday up there just to get some sun.
Yeah.
Up there, they thought was Sydney. I went up there and a bit further right, across the Pacific or whatever ocean that is, and I landed in Fiji. But as I was checking in, I've walked out of, I've got my boarding pass, and I've looked up and there's a camera. I was like, oh, surely there's somebody else walking through. Mitch Cleary, the pop-up sprinkler, just jumps out with a microphone and starts interviewing me. So I gave him a clip as well. I said, where's Purple at Windy Hill? Because there was a bit of a saga going on.
You then tweeted, I think we discussed this last year, and you did tweet it, and you bagged me for Mitch doing his job for being there.
I accused him of being the apprentice, and
I don't think I had any
deserved...
line of sight on it. Mitch was just there doing his job, and you bagged me over it.
Can you divulge who your sources are at the airport? Like at the airlines?
No, I wasn't a big airport operator. Hutchie was. Hutchie
So
was
people
huge
have-
at it.
Okay, don't be specific, but if someone does have a contact at the airport, what sort of levels? Is it like baggage handlers? Is it like people on reception? Where would someone have a contact at an airport?
I refuse to second guess Hutchie's movement.
No, I don't need Hutchie.
No,
just in
but
general.
I wasn't. In all honesty, I hated it. The doorstop interview. I know I did them, and I know I had to do them, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Whereas I think other journos loved it, like Hutchie at the time. So.
I did not tell a soul.
So someone laid you in. Someone saw you at the airport and rang you. Yeah.
But someone's booked your ticket, and someone's told someone I booked so-and-so's ticket.
Yeah, but that was an internal travel agent.
Okay.
Who's best
I
interest
don't
was to know.
know. I mean, journos don't give up sources. They've got a lot of problems, journos. I've got a few. But we don't give up sources, so I've never
that's
asked specifics.
It's
But
interesting, isn't it, with sources? Because even as players, remember when stuff came out at your club and players would be like, who's leaking this in? And we always sort of went to the bottom. We always thought it was the boot starter or the property steward or one of the masseurs or one of the volunteers.
Go as high as you can.
Now I've realised that I'm out. It starts at
Sometimes it's the coach, Joey.
It starts at the top, the board members
We had
and people at
the famous one where Eddie Maguire came in and accused the club of leaking like a sieve.
Yeah.
And then about 30 minutes later, it was written up that the club was leaking like a sieve, and the comment about the gold Logies we cost him.
Some huge games in round 11. We'll get your predictions soon, plus Fair Income or Fugazi. But up next, it's your news, Damo, and we'll start with the Collingwood Magpies as well. This is Triple M Footy's midweek rub with Joey, Damo and Daisy. Fair Income or Fugazi, and your round 11 predictions still to come. But it's time for your news, Damo. The Pies play Freo over at Optus Stadium Friday night with 2 new debutants.
They do, and quite incredibly, Rebsy, they haven't lost a game since round 3 this year. There's been a draw amongst that mix, but have not lost since that moment, and they've had a lot of adversity days when it comes to injury and availability of key players. So they're going to go into that game against the Dockers with 2 more players to make an AFL debut. Will Parker, fantastic story, ex-Victorian cricketer, and Ed Allen, equally big in his junior years, and son of Ben Allen, who won a best and fairest at Hawthorn in a premiership year of 1991. Only 3 weeks earlier, Lockie Sullivan got his debut. Joe Richards made his debut the week after. And back earlier in the season when they were losing matches, unfortunately, for Charlie Dean, he too is a debutant in the 2024 season.
It's been miraculous how they've been able to patch some holes, really, the Pies. And Richards comes in. He looks like a player who could have been doing it at any level for a long time, especially the highest level, rather than just a bloke that's come in and tried to make an impact. The story, Ed Allen, pick 19, the first pick, so they've obviously got a high opinion of him. Apparently a freak runner. Covers the ground. He'll be on the wing, getting up and back. And then to just pluck a leg spinner. Why not? The opportunity there. I love the fact they're not afraid to go with something new and to try it out. I think that's the beauty of what Craig McRae does. If you're in good form, if there's an opportunity that presents, we're happy to pick you rather than going back to a little bit of the older, we know what we're going to get, we'll play it safe. They roll the dice a little bit.
And amidst all that, McRae and McInnes have had chances in the past fortnight which they weren't getting, and there were some doubts about the chances they were given even earlier this year and weren't able to take and grasp, but I think they have in recent weeks. And Joey, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, just those names we mentioned, Lockie Sullivan, a 26-year-old who'd been available for all clubs for 8 seasons prior to the chance he eventually got.
Yeah, you can find them any different way, can't you? We've got the mid-season draft coming up, so he was one of the better VFL players that got his chance. Joe Richards came out of playing Wangaratta in the Ovens and Murray. They plucked him as a mature age. You could argue this has been probably the best coaching performance of Craig McRae's short career with what he's been able to do with the names and the injury toll to still rack up wins, particularly after the start of the year that they had when it looked like maybe they weren't going to bounce again. To get them where they are, it's been a brilliant coaching performance, and that's why I think we're all pretty confident once they get their best players back towards the back end of the year that they are right back into this season up to their eyeballs.
When you talk about the culture and the enjoyment of the football club, if you know that at any position or any time you're in form, you may get a chance, it just encourages everyone, I guess, to walk a little bit taller, because we've all been at football clubs where, there's probably 5 blokes, no matter how well they're playing in the VFL, they're still a long way off getting an opportunity. They'll go with the tried, second stringer. I think the Pies are selling that message, delivering on it. So no doubt that's why they are the happiest team and have the most enjoyment.
It's a great point. I mean, Oleg Markov was a story that Will
Yeah,
Parker is
another
this year, in that he wasn't on the list when the calendar year started of the year they won a premiership in Markov's case, and Parker this year. He was only picked up in February.
And John Noble, the first player in the mid-season draft to reach 100 games, another one. He's playing the best football of his career.
Yep. Management of Dusty Martin toward game number 300. As it stands, he's got 297 games to his name. Now, we're up to round 11, and then there's 12, and then there's 13. That would take him to 300, but that would have him away from the famous MCG, where in round 14, the week after that, they are playing Hawthorn. That's the plan around it. They're not absolutely committing to that publicly because they can't, given their problems with the availability of players on their list. They're down to about 24, 25 available players, 26 maybe available players because of injury.
Yeah, well, hey, when I got my first game at St Kilda, 2002, we only had 24 players to pick from. So I got a game when I wasn't ready, and the only 2 players that were fit and available didn't get picked were Josh Houlihan, who got drafted in my year, who was further back ready to develop than me, and Justin Platt, who actually played a bit of good footy at St Kilda and Richmond. He was left out. So there is opportunity, but in regards to the Dusty, this is more your domain, Daisy, because you're all over it, the whole... the
unfortunately,
milestone games.
Tomahawk was rested for the Darwin game.
Just so you could break the game's record.
I have a zero issue with it when you are a grade of the game and you are going past a serious record. The terms in which you get to play it out, and how that's not just for a personal thing for Dusty, it's for the fans. 90,000 at the MCG. Oh, the Tiger Army will rock up. One, it's a game they couldn't.
Well, I hope they rock up because they haven't been rocking up.
But this is the thing. This is a reason why they will rock up and celebrate one of their absolute champions of the game. And, to do it at the MCG is the right thing to do, and it should be everything, the kitchen sink thrown at celebrating Dusty Martin.
Something's happened to Dusty this year that hasn't to this point of his career, of his greatness, and that is criticism from a lot of people coming.
But again, I don't understand why we as an industry, and I'll lump myself in it, even though I don't do it as such.
Well, you don't. You just I say this complimentarily, you always take the player's side.
But you get older, you're not going to be as good as you once were, but the perception is that he still should be winning games for the football club. If you're going to start criticising blokes, criticise the blokes who should have taken his spot and fulfilled the potential of what they're getting at. If you have to have a go at someone, have a go at a Bolton or whatever. Skip the champion. That's the easy out because it gets clout because of how good they've been. I think it's a weak process to go down trying to clip blokes on the way out rather than celebrating.
I agree. I remember there was a bit of noise around Gary Ablett Jr. as well, which I just can't have. And you actually look at his numbers, and I had a look. He's still their number 1 score involvement player at Richmond, Dusty, and his player ratings for a mid-forward. There are Toby Green's having a worse year than Dusty Martin. There are some other big names when you look at the ratings that are around his mark. So he's done everything he needs to do for Richmond. He's out there. I mean, he could easily be injured and sitting on the sidelines, and they'll all be pumping him up saying how much they miss Dustin Martin. Yeah. So he's actually one of the senior players that's out there. It's tough. I've been in that situation when you're at a team where you've got players playing that aren't ready. Your system's breaking down all over the place. It looks like nobody's trying, which is not true. It just breaks down completely, and it's just everyone's...
You try harder when you're in a position.
Exactly right.
It looks like you're trying less.
Yeah.
The output of what you're doing is a lot harder because you just made to look second rate because of deficiencies.
And no doubt, though, motivation is an issue for Dusty, and that's fair enough too. It's tough for him to be playing when he's been to the highs and he's got to try and help out this young group. So
just quick yes and no's here. Do you believe, both of you, that he'll go into 2025?
For me, it's still 50-50. I think he has to wait till the year plays out and assess it on the whole once they get some personnel back, how he's feeling, whether he wants to go on again.
I would say no, purely at his own choice too. If Richmond wanted him to and he wanted to, good on him.
And
but
won't consider another offer from another club?
I wouldn't think so.
No, I don't reckon he would, no.
Right. Well, you know him pretty well, Joey, as much as anyone I think does.
Did you live next to him for a while?
Yes,
yep.
for a while there.
There you go.
Yep, he did.
Yep.
Now, Luke
Good
Parker,
chat.
we... Talked about him for a few weeks. It was staggering to think that a three-time best and fairest, three-time All-Australian player was playing for a third consecutive week, as he was last Friday night in the VFL system. Unfortunately for him, he made contact with an opponent in that game by the name of Josh Smith, made contact with his broken jaw and concussion moments attached to it. It flushed through the VFL tribunal system last night. 6 weeks is his sidelining period now. It takes him out to basically round 17, round 18 of the AFL season. And given that John Longmire had forced him, Days, to have a stint in the VFL after breaking his arm in the off-season, you can add a few more weeks to that potential return.
Yeah, and it's a bit of frustration I sense coming out. It was an act that he probably has never done before in terms of running past the ball to... He's always been a physical player, but that didn't really need to happen on that occasion. I still think come the back end of the year, and probably it's going to be on the back of more injuries than his own form, that he has a big part to play in what they're going to do if they continue down this path.
Yeah, look, it's why you just got to stop doing those acts, because the accidental head clashes cause facial injuries and he misses 6 weeks. You've just got to take yourself out of even doing anything like that. I'm with Daisy. I think that right now he didn't get a chance to play because they're fit and healthy. At some point, Sydney are going to get some injuries, and I think he'll be needed at some stage back into the season. So he's just got to keep himself in tip-top shape, ready to go.
Imagine him as the sub.
Oh, imagine him just coming back into the side late, and he'd be like a caged lion that's just been let free. He'll be a nightmare.
Yep. And then we heard Luke Beveridge yesterday talking about his great player in Tom Liberatore. Liberatore's been sidelined now for a couple of weeks and will be for at least 2, maybe 3, maybe more beyond this point. Tom McCartan from the Sydney Swans, another, like Liberatore, head knock in recent weeks. He was going to be coming back this week to play against the Bulldogs. McCartan, he won't be. It'll be at least 1 more week away. So 2 bigger names in the competition. Luke Beveridge just explaining that while the medical panel that had been assessing Tom Liberatore have effectively signed off his return in 2 to 3 weeks' time, he just, I suppose, let us all in as a footy community as to the stresses attached to these decisions.
With Tom, when he comes back, there'll still be that nervousness that he might cop another knock. The topic of concussion at the moment and the effect of it on our game and how sensitive we are to our players' health, it's a challenge to talk about it because it's not like he's just out of the woods, and he comes back and plays and everything's okay.
And this obviously comments made on the back of a week where Luke Beveridge was also, as coach of the Bulldogs, forced to watch the dream be broken of his young player in Aidan O'Driscoll, who wasn't even able to play 1 game of football.
It was nice to hear that, and left him, I suppose, the raw and vulnerable, speaking of Luke Beveridge, because when you think about it, is quite scary and nerve-wracking for players now. And when you just talk about he could easily get another one, it would be like saying a player's come back from a broken leg, and there's every chance if he just gets another knock on that leg, it's broken again. It would be like, oh, God. But that's the seriousness of these head injuries. It's out of control whether he gets another head knock. And Daisy and I, we know players that are really struggling, and it is a real issue post-footy. So I think it was interesting to hear him talk about how scary it would be for some players and for the football community that this could happen.
There's some huge games in round 11 coming up. We'll get your predictions for those. But up next, it is Fair Dinkum or Fugazi and Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub with Joey, Daisy and Damo. Daisy Thomas, Harley Reid has the highest ceiling for any player we've seen since Dale Thomas.
Fugazi, he's reached his potential and it's only, 11 rounds in. It's unfortunate for West Coast.
Downhill from here.
That's
This is it?
So
This is it?
I could
It's
probably
as good as
see
it gets?
3 or more games and maybe he'll have to be moved on, potentially look for a second club if there's a suitor. But there probably isn't, so
If
unfortunately...
this is as good as it gets, in all seriousness, it's still pretty good.
It's a valid point. His ceiling, in a serious note, that was a joke, is going to be massive. And the more he figures out how to use his body, his capabilities, the way that West Coast can now make a game plan almost around him in the Dusty Martin style, it's going to be exciting to watch. And I am one who is subscribed to the fact that West Coast play, I figure out what time and how I watch.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Montagna, Port should review the Hawthorn win like a loss.
Yeah, they probably will. That's fair dinkum. That's what good teams do. They'll be disappointed with 3/4 of their football. So they'll almost say, right, we did well to win and take some positives out of that, but they'll be disappointed with how they played and they need to play better if they want to be a top 4 team.
Is there any questions about Sam Mitchell coming up?
No.
Can we discuss why the hell that happened in the last quarter? It's a wet, slippery game. You're playing a lot better than the opposition. Why try and save it? You could knock minutes off the clock, due to conditions. If it was a sunny, shiny day and they could just go straight through the middle, bang, 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 maybe think about it. That was so frustrating for me.
Yeah, outsmarted himself, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit too
Okay.
clever.
Damien Barrett, it should be 15 steps between bounces rather than 15 metres.
It does need tightening up, so I'll give you that being fair dinkum. I didn't have an issue with the free kick being paid. I would have preferred that it wasn't against Isaac Rankin, if that's what the one you're specifically referring to, which I believe you are, Rabsy. I saw Nick Blakey the previous day or 2 days earlier have a similar distance between bounces, and I'm glad he didn't get pinged for it. So, look, by the letter of the law, a lot of players are breaching it every week.
Yeah, I think we've learned something. 15 steps is way more than 15 metres because you're taking your stride is longer than a metre when you're running. So any play, when we've always just counted steps, haven't we? And sort of said, oh, that's about 15. 15 steps is about 25 metres.
What about how far the blokes who take the kick-ins go, though?
Yeah, exactly. No, it happens all
Like
the time.
that-
Dano's
yeah.
right. There's been 6, I heard there's been 6 paid for the year. There would be heaps of players that run past. I'd like generally just to let it go unless it becomes really ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or just
It's a
make
positive
it,
action.
or just
Why do we
make
want
it
to stop
20.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or just
yeah.
to remove all ambiguity. Yeah.
15 steps for Nick Watson is different for 15 steps to Lloyd Meek too.
That's true.
Yeah,
So,
that's very true.
Daisy, last Thursday's result was more meaningful for the Gold Coast Suns than it was for Geelong.
Yeah, that's fair income. Absolutely. The Cats would look at that and go, okay, do over. Let's see what we can do and produce the next week. For the Gold Coast Suns, they can now believe that they can match it with the best and in a fashion that isn't just we can win. We can win comfortably playing our best football. To kick 26 goals up in Darwin against a side that's pretty good defensively, that is a massive win for that footy club.
Damo, if North were playing Richmond this weekend, the Roos would win.
For Ghazi Rabsy, North Melbourne just does not win.
Question: if they did, would you want North Melbourne to win and
course
go
I do.
above Richmond on the ladder?
Yes,
And get
yes.
picked too?
Well,
You can take your time back again. Gold Coast down in Hobart against
no. I still
Harley
maintain
Reid.
they did the right thing in that game because they had Harley Reid equivalent 2 years earlier and weren't able to keep him in his mind anyway beyond 3 months. I'm talking about Jason Horne-Francis. There was no guarantee that what Harley Reid's doing for West Coast would have been done if Harley Reid was wearing blue and white. So, no, they're just got to start winning. Winning will fix most of their problems, but they're a long way away from that.
Joey, Melbourne should consider injecting Cozzy Pickett into their midfield.
Yeah, fair income. Been on this for a while. I think it's time to mix it up a little bit. He's got that upside, like we've seen with Rankin, with Shea Bolton, with Isaac Heaney. Some of these forwards that just need time in the midfield, and they could elevate their performance. He's definitely one that should spend more time in there.
Okay, Daisy Thomas, when he comes back from injury, Adelaide should consider starting Isaac Rankin as a midfielder.
Yep, that's been a shift that they have made for a few weeks now and almost lingering on a month or so. He's going to be one of the great players throughout the competition. Think of your Andrew McLeods. The way he broke away from a Braden Maynard tackle, which is hard to do, ran away from Nick Dacos, who is lightning, and Jack Crisp at full pace to then deliver the ball. My goodness, he's one of my favourite players as well. I'm probably getting a list that's too long, but that's fair. You can put him in the midfield, have the luxury to drop him forward. He kicks goals. He's smart. He's dynamic. Love the kid.
Damo, Luke Jackson versus Rowan Marshall was the best one-on-one battle of the year.
That's a question without notice. Obviously, it is in fair income for Ghazi.
Most of them are.
I'm going to say fair income because I can't think of another one off the top of my head. it was a ripper, just in isolation. I loved how they did go at it with each other. It poses questions as to how Jackson is used when Darcy comes back. But I love what they both did. They both went for it. I slightly gave Jackson because of the result going his team's way, but equally people could have gone Marshall. So fair income.
Ed Richards' move to the midfield has breathed new life into the Dogs, Joey.
Yep, fair income. Been great. Well done, Bevo.
Okay, right, I'm going to stick with you, Joey. It's time for Daisy to start taking Essendon seriously.
It's a good one.
was a pause.
It's a good one. What's the definition of seriously, though? What does
Stop
that
ridiculing
mean?
them.
Stop laughing when the name gets brought up.
Yeah, no, they'll
Finals
they'll-
contender.
Yeah, no, they'll play finals.
Yeah.
They'll play finals. Not convinced they'll win one just yet, but they'll play finals.
All right, Daisy Thomas. Lockie Whitfield took 14 kick-ins on the weekend. He is making a big play for Joey's kickins.com sponsorship.
Yeah, well, I've already seen it. He's plugged them on social media, so Joey's reached out and he's done a collaboration, which was good.
A JV.
Yeah, and it continues to go well, the kickins.com. Jump online today and nominate somebody you think is eligible to win this week. We, of course, will be handing out awards and prizes, new Sharons.
Yep.
selfish awards and everything else that goes with it. Kickins.com.
Heath Shaw wants to get part of the business too. He wants to jump on board.
He's a big investor. Yeah, you're getting all the heavy hitters.
Heath Meldrum did some stats for us for Red Z Lending. He said Joey's game high was only 7, but among all midfielders, he led the AFL for kick-ins to himself in both 2013 and 2014.
It's real. It's
When I
kick-ins.
played as a defender.
I give you shit. But when I was at the back end of my career, there was nearly on punch-ons between Cade Simpson, myself, and Nick Newman as to who could get to the goal line or the second bucket of balls quicker, because that became the thing. If it just went over the line, you could mark it and then run in whilst they're getting the ball. It was all sorts of funny stuff.
Joey, if Craig McRae can pull off winning in the West against your Freo Dockers, he truly is a miracle worker.
Yeah, that's fair income. It's going to be a tough ask for Collingwood with their injury toll. A couple of debutants. Fremantle playing some pretty strong footy at home in particular. That's going to be tough. That'll be a great win.
Finally, Damo, Luke Parker's was the most publicised reserves tribunal since John Burke got to get the boy off incident.
Actually, when I was... Oh, he just whacked the umpire. Hey!
Oh, no.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, boy. Well, this is sensational. The umpire has gone down. Now, there are a number of others coming up to talk to him. Surely we've got to get the Collingwood runner out here and get him off the ground for a spell.
Oh, he whacked
he wants to be very careful because...
I'd take him off now, the boy.
Well, he's got him.
I think you've got to take the boy off.
Yeah, that's fair income.
Wow, hang on.
can't
So
hear
what
it.
was...
That was in a reserves match, and he decked the umpire and then decked I think 2 umpires and then decked someone in the
certainly
crowd.
one umpire, yeah. It was in the days where the Sunday afternoon was either Swans playing at the SCG or they played the reserves basically at Lakeside Oval.
Right.
And that was the only form of entertainment we had on a Sunday back then. So,
Started clipping umpires.
yeah.
Oh,
He never
boy.
played a senior game and got banned, obviously,
Yeah.
for a long time, but was able to resume his career in the lesser leagues beyond that point. And he seemed a really good bloke. Balls just had an absolute nightmare, but as Luke Parker did in the Frankston, or the game at Frankston last week.
Well, there's some huge games for round 11. Kicking off with Luke Parker's Sydney Swans tomorrow night. They take on the Dogs at Marvel Stadium. We'll get your predictions next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo. Damien Barrett, Daisy Thomas, and the man who had 7 kick-ins in a game to himself, Joey, and mine. Sam
Not
Young.
to
Stop
himself,
saying that because
Rosie.
people believe it. This is the problem sometimes.
Was it not true?
That's true.
Yeah, I had 7 kick-ins in a game, but not kicking into myself. I just kicked in from full back.
Ah.
Western Bulldogs versus Sydney kicks off at round 11. Joey, how do you see this game playing out?
I'd love to see the Western Bulldogs win. I don't know if I can trust them yet. So you can't go past the Swans with the way they're playing. The 3 midfielders are playing off the charts at the moment, Goulden, Warner, Heaney. So until the Bulldogs can stop them, and I think James Jordan will tag Bontempelli, so I think Sydney win.
Same reasons. No reason to jump off the Swans just yet. You'd think they would have a lull at some time of the season days, but they're not showing any signs of that just yet.
I think they're going to win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. And the way it plays out, I can see a big score being kicked under the lid at Marvel. Can't wait to watch Errol Goulden again. Love everything that he does. And for the Bulldogs, look, they're getting their opportunities. They're eating the scoreboard, 8-22 and 19-19 in their last 2 weeks. So plenty of avenues to goal. They just need to kick straight, and I think it should be an absolute cracker.
Another cracker on Friday night, Damo. It's Fremantle versus Collingwood at Optus Stadium.
It's with trepidation you tip against Collingwood. I did last week, and that blew up again when Adelaide couldn't get it done. I'm going to do so again this week and tip Fremantle, knowing what's going to happen.
What's
Collingwood will win by 3 points.
What's going on with their goal kicking, Joey?
It's horrible, isn't it? at
You
the
need
moment?
to get down there.
Nah, not me. No,
Imagine. I shouldn't do this because it's mean. Imagine how many kick-ins you could take if you were playing against Fremantle. 9-18 and 4-15.
Oh, Daisy.
He's mad.
It's a bit sensitive about it, Days. I think back off.
I'm sorry.
Who do you think will win, by the way?
Collingwood.
But yeah. Hard. This would be a massive win for the Pies. I think Fremantle are ready to take a scalp with the injuries and a couple of debutants. This is Freo's best chance.
North Melbourne versus Port Adelaide down in Hobart, Days.
Yes, if Port Adelaide lost, I'd be shocked. So I'll be tipping them. The disdain that Damo has now when North Melbourne is mentioned.
I know.
Well, again, they tried to get positives out of last week, and last time I checked, they lost by 40 points. So it's they're not even close.
Port will win this one. Yeah.
Okay, Gold Coast versus Carlton, or Carlton versus Gold Coast, I should say, at Marvel Stadium. That is a huge game, Joey.
Massive game. I'm sticking fat with the Blues.
If they
Until Gold
lose, are the
Co-
wheels off?
Yeah,
Well,
there'll be
yes.
some concerns for sure.
Because this has been the issue with when we talk about clubs this year. We sort of think they're starting to fall off, then they have a big win, so you can't really write them off. I'll be concerned if the Blues lose this one. I'm tipping them to win, but yeah, no real confidence.
I'm just not getting excited yet. It is a yet about the Gold Coast away from home in a match that they could and should win, but Carlton for me.
Talk about the midfield of a couple of sides in Sydney. The midfield at the Gold Coast Suns at the moment is unbelievable. Anderson, Flanders, Raul Miller, all in career best form.
Geelong versus GWS, Damo, GMHBA Stadium, 4:35 Saturday.
Geez, both teams are really struggling, aren't they, in recent weeks? Geelong 7-0 to start the season, now 0-3 since that, and the GWS have lost 3 of 4, or is it even 4 of 5? I'm going to go with Geelong, but I was worried about what I saw last week against Gold Coast. I wasn't worried about the previous 2 losses to Port Adelaide and Melbourne, but I was last week from Geelong, but I'm going to give them the one more go. So, Cats.
Yeah, Damo and I have been the biggest believers of Geelong of all, but it's slightly the same that whether the 7-zip start just means as the year goes on, they just taper away. They've got enough games at home to still play finals, but not sure they'll finish top 4 just because it's at home, Geelong.
You'll like this one, Joey. Both teams susceptible to a mid-year slump. The Cats last year from rounds 9 to 13 went 1-4. The Giants from rounds 8 to 12 went 1-4.
There you go. Giants turned it around, though, the back end of the year.
They
Cats
did, yes. So for that reason, I'll be tipping Geelong.
One of the great nights on the calendar, Dreamtime at the G, Richmond versus Essendon, Daisy Thomas.
I think Richmond can get themselves up for this and be super competitive and make a real game of it. I think they've still got enough.
Do you?
I do. I really
Coming
do.
off 119 points
they're not
against
that,
Brisbane.
They're not that bad.
And a similar-ish, wasn't quite as many points, but a bad result the previous week against the Dogs.
I'll take you for a responsible bottle of wine that they'll get within 40.
Oh, 40. What about within 20?
I'll give you 32 then. 6 goals in a couple
Nah,
of
I
minutes.
don't know whether I'm allowed to
Essendon
bet, so I'll decline the bet, but I
do it
can't
off
see
air.
them getting near.
All right, well, yeah, Essendon will win, but I don't think it'll be a massive margin, and I hope it isn't for the game.
Yeah, so Bombers will win. Yep.
Hawthorn versus Brisbane at Marvel Stadium. The Hawks almost got it done last week. Brisbane got some injury, Damo.
Oh, they do. They do. I like what Brisbane have done, though, for the past 3 weeks. They had that draw against Adelaide. They had the big win last week, and 3 weeks ago they had that good win against Gold Coast Suns. I feel they've turned the corner. It's a danger game from that perspective, but I do believe the Lions are back to a point and will beat Hawthorn.
Yeah, with Damo there, I think the Brisbane Lions are up and about again. They'll win this.
Hawks have beaten them the last 4 times going back to 2020.
The last 4 times?
The last 4 times. So think of the form Brisbane have been in that patch as opposed to Hawthorn. It's a good start, but I'm going to tip Brisbane.
Melbourne versus St Kilda, 3:20 on Sunday. Joey Montagna, is the heat on the Saints?
Well, yes, it is. They're playing poor football. The heat's on Melbourne as well. They're playing poor football too. Got much more faith in Melbourne at the moment. With the players they've got and where they've been in recent years, they'll be disappointed. Their leaders will step up. They'll beat St Kilda.
Yeah, Lever being out is a problem for Melbourne, but I just cannot see St Kilda doing anything against a quality team, which I'm still prepared to describe Melbourne as, so the Demons.
I'm officially off the Saints, so the D's for me.
Okay, and Adelaide versus West Coast rounds out round 11. All of a sudden, this is a big game, Damo.
Yeah, it is, and I think it was you, Daisy, wasn't it? You said before you know where West Coast is playing. I promise you, I now know too. I knew that this was the final game of round 11 long before you start looking at the next week's games because of that one man in Harley Reid. And having said that, I still can't see West Coast winning this week, Adelaide, but it could be game on.
Yeah, they'll give it a shake. We don't know if Elliot Yo's going to be back yet, but I still am going to lean towards Adelaide at home. But gee, that West Coast midfield is powerful.
Yeah, same to everyone for everyone's reasons.
And Jake Waterman, by the way, Plugger Waterman, leading the Coleman.
J Train.
Again,
Gee whiz.
yeah. We need to be talking about him a lot more
Yeah,
too. Don't worry about Harley.
amazing.
Incredible.
So give us your certainties and an outsider, please, for round 11.
I'm going to go Brisbane as my certainty and Fremantle outsiders, or are they favourites?
They're favourites, but it's very, very close. 1.5's the line.
I think they are favourites, yeah.
That's
Fremantle, I'll take them as my roughie.
as a favourite.
And I'll go.
Oh, no.
There's no other game.
I've tipped
It's
Sydney,
tough.
but I feel the Western Bulldogs could be the roughie, so that'll
good
cover
one.
that one.
Yeah.
I'll take Port Adelaide as a certainty, and I'm going to, and laugh as you may, take Richmond as a roughie.
And if they get within 32, Damo owes you a bottle of wine.
Yeah,
Catch every game
beautiful. Hagrid's
live
Grange.
on Triple M, starting with the Bulldogs versus Sydney tomorrow night. Following the Thursday rub, Jack Heffernan, Jay Clark, Isaac Smith, and Kate McCarthy. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.